Well, thank you very much for first of all, for hosting me and inviting me to this wonderful stellar event. What I'm going to talk about is a co-authored paper, so you'll actually have access to the paper. I believe you will have access to the paper between myself and a colleague who works at the GSMA. I should say, if you know the GSMA, it's a global system of mobile operators, 750 operators. Okay, so I'm taking the angle of coming in from a carrier perspective, and I'm also a co-chair, or actually I chair the GSMA Distributed Ledger Technology Group, DLT. So I have various hats that I'm wearing here. What we want to talk about is some thoughts. And when you look at the paper and the focus of the paper, there are multiple. We look at multiple use cases, especially in the carrier industry. By the way, around wholesale settlements is one of them. Blockchain for wholesale settlements has been going on for some time now within the carrier industry. So they have adapted. They are using this, but you have to think about how do you use these technologies to remove friction? What is the use case? The problem right now, the challenge when you talk with people in the industry, they think, is this the problem looking for a solution? Right? You have to kind of sort of educate. So it's around looking at how you remove friction in this whole discussion. Is security, identity. So we're looking across the forum here. In the group that I represent, within the GSMA, operators have to be the ones driving. Like banks, they're slow. They're slow. They can be slow. You know, they need to. Some are not. Some take it very. You know, I say Georgia Telecom and what they've been doing in shallow. Very interesting stuff that they've been involved in. So that's one aspect of it. But the thesis here is, could we think about implementing? And this is what we talk about in the paper. You know, stable coins, for something like a telco coin, stable coins, where there could be a tokenization example here. And use this for the telecommunication industry. So you have to think about how you incentivize the telecommunications industry here. And of course, the authors also, in the way I see the industry, it's an ecosystem play. You know, you have to involve it. Absolutely have to. And so on. And so, for example, in the group that I chair, we have somebody who talks with the regulators. This is important. You know, they have an dialogue, whether it's with the EU or wherever. And there is going to be some additional research. I'll give people homework at the end of this that we need to think about, particularly what does the token economy look like? Where is cybersecurity and all of this? What are the risk assessments? It's sort of a kind of a landscape of play here. So, whoa, what did I just do? Here. So in the introduction, when you look at the paper itself, you know, there's some aspects about what we think about tokenization and digitalization overall. What is this basket of crypto? You know, this is kind of the confusion in the industry looking at. We don't particularly talk about crypto, but you know, we could, when we're talking about stablecoin and telco coin, we have to kind of acknowledge that this is in existence. And also, could, again, you know, when we're looking at special drawing rights in the industry, you have to look at, could we think about stable currency for the telecom industry that could use these, right? Because this is what we have to look at. And using a combination of maybe something that's quite fiat related, for example, with other currencies that are key asset classes here. We do, when you look at the paper in detail, articulate the need or perhaps the incentive, the opportunity for a telcoin. And of course, looking at how we could, once again, create some interesting value for the industry itself. Now, this is probably this pictorial is probably extremely most important of everything because it captures pictorially what we're all talking about in terms of the telcoin sort of concept itself. So you have something like fungible, non-fungible. Remember, we're talking about sort of fungible, non-fungibles here. The GSMA, you know, we work on an exchange rate. It's known. This is a fact. We have an exchange rate amongst ourselves. And so, and then of course, looking at how we think about the development of that stablecoin, and special drawing rates would be based on the stablecoin itself. What we think here is you now look at, as you see the fungible, as you break it out between tokenization and non-tokenization or non-fungible, fungible, non-fungible, you can think about crypto, CBDC, stablecoin, Telcoin, and then you think about how the GSMA, IMF, et cetera, can play together. This gets on to other aspects of our discussion, which is mainly about asset management, payments, digital currencies. You know, how do we think about that? Gamification, talking about the metaverse, you know, metaverses or metaverse, whatever you want to think about that, et cetera, et cetera. What is that going to look like itself? So whilst we have started out with blockchain for wholesale settlement, we're thinking wider with our carrier, within the carrier space. And we're thinking wider about posing the question, which by the way, I'll be talking about it in Switzerland next week, about, you know, can we think about more of the use cases going here? Because we're use case driven. This is extremely important when we start to think about, stimulate the discussion itself about a telephone coin or a stable coin, modicum here. So the conclusion, and then I'm going to give you some homework. We believe that tokenization of stablecoin can indeed stimulate the telecommunications industry. It has to be done in partnership with the policymakers in the room, regulators, researchers together, because we have to do that as an ecosystem. We think that the short term is to look at the proof of concept to develop perhaps a Telcoin based on the GSMA exchange rate, which is known. It's known, the exchange rate itself. And then perhaps a longer view could be thinking about how we couple fiat currencies and the role of stablecoin in creating something that we call often in the industry the internet of value. I think it's more now trust and what trust can be overall. Ecosystem means colleagues, regulators, carriers, vendors, standards organizations. It's a whole group of folks. Academia. That's what we mean when we're thinking about the ecosystem itself. We also want to think about a model that could be looking at realizing the benefits of the economy of this of the value, particularly for the telecommunications industry. So telecommunications industry has an opportunity, we believe, when we think about coupling this whole notion of a telecom stablecoin incentivization concept. For further study, it just occurred to me that the chart that I had following is a repeat of that. But let me give you some examples. Who is from the Frankfurt Management School represented in this room? There are some points I'd like to see for more homework here, because I know Philip Sandler. We need to see economic modeling for the use of carrier-based stablecoins and NFTs in the industry. So there needs to be an economic modeling for research. I think that's one. We need to see jurisdictional legality issues and ramifications of using a stablecoin, Telcoin, that you're involving telecommunications carriers who are global. Now the GSMA, we're talking about 750 global. They can be in the United States, they can be in Europe, they can be in Asia, they're global. What would that look like as a point of research as an opportunity? We need to think about, often implied, but not so much called out, is a cybersecurity assessment. For example, best practices in cyber safety execution of this. This is important. You know, this is really important to think about that as part of the exercise that we have to do here for further study. We need to think about also the implementation, and standardization of work, implementation and standardization. These are bodies that are standardization bodies or industry bodies that I represent that work on the industry of, for example, the introduction of stablecoins and fees in the telecom industry. You know, that would mean producing a landscape and understanding the differences, understanding the gaps, gap analysis. And lastly, but not least, lastly, is thinking about the ability of blockchain, you know, looking at it as the implementation models, for example, in the industry that may form the basis to evolve into other kinds of areas. Now, let me say the hype right now is this whole notion of metaverse systems, etc. I should also say I'm in the IEEE, the National Electrical Engineers Group, ethics and augmented reality, extended reality, and now with metaverse systems. And so we need to, what's happening is that people are starting to make these associations, blockchain, metaverse. Forget about Web 3.0, it's just another type of talk, but they're starting to look at that. So I'm working with a professor, Dr. Yu Yang, who is out of China and soon will be the president of the IEEE, elect president, and we're looking at how we create these value chains, right? But also not for research, not only for research, but also for standardization. So hence, therefore, there is value, that's our thesis. There's homework to do. We think this could be an opportunity. The carriers have been in this space for some time now. They have one use case, and they're basically for blockchain for wholesale roaming. Been on that map for some time now, but they're looking at other use cases, and perhaps we could think about more incentivization models like Telco, stablecoin capability for the carrier industry. Thank you. Any questions? Comments from now? I understand that you need to go, but yes, I'm going to be at a wedding tomorrow. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. You followed by.
Thank you. Really. No. Yeah. No, I don't think that doesn't matter.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But I guess the
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think you can hear. Thank you. Very interesting. And the first time that I hear this kind of correlation between tokenization platform.
Yeah.
And I go for a straight question. Have you already thought about a unique wallet to manage?
You know that's a great, so let me repeat the question for the people on the phone.
Yeah.
The question is, have we thought about the unique wallet to manage, especially within the carrier industry? The answer is yes. And so it's in the background of that discussion. The answer is absolutely yes. I think what we have to do, just as we do with banks, is take carriers along a journey. It's very important. My colleague in the GSMA is very much in this space. He's been in the space for some time now. But we are thinking about: could you have a carrier wallet? Could you have to absolutely say, okay, I'm going to pay through my carrier wallet, my capabilities or whatever. I'm a Swisscom customer, for example. If I do that, could I imagine doing that? I think that's a great opportunity. Thank you for that question. I believe you are the next person.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for the presentation. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to link it back to the other keynote speech.
Sure.
Before. Do you have a sense from the project you are carrying on that this could end up like similarly to what happened to Facebook on some sort? I'm referring essentially to the stablecoin and all of that side of things, definitely more than settlement. And maybe on the back of that as well, given that we all believe that there is value in all of this, do you think that on some level, because you would would be essentially working also on the financial side of it, right? So you will not be only a telco, strictly speaking. Would that sort of additional burden kill part of this innovation or potentially of the value that you see in this chain? I know that it's quite high level, especially at these early stages, but I just want to know if you have a sense of that.
All great questions. Well, carrier industry is regulated, so to some extent. So we're not in the naive bucket. That's one thing that's why there's jurisdictional rails, depending on where you're at. So we have to work absolutely with the regulators, and this is very important. It's part of educating. It's part of that journey. So it is the ecosystem play here. I mean, our keynote speaker did a great job in stating where the mistakes happen, but also where the opportunities are. And so, this is more than I don't see us failing in this. However, it has to be. This is where the key point is. If there's no network effect, if nobody is going to go for it, then it will drop. Think about the recent announcement of the IBM and Maersk. With what has happened with their whole, was it 72 hours ago? IBM and Maersk, they had this entire platform where they were doing third party. They were using blockchain for third party capabilities. They have now basically said that no longer will pursue it. Why? There was no network effect. Nobody was adopting it. So I can talk about all the ecosystems, but if we don't see the adoption that's needed, all of this will be for nothing. So that's one of the key success points that I will argue. Yes.
Hi, thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
Can I ask a question about that Telco coin? If I understand correct, that is going to be in a stablecoin, right?
Yeah, it would be together, right? It would be based. It would be part of it.
What environment is going to be? You are going to build a new ecosystem for Tesco environment, and that stablecoin is going to work on that chain, or it is something else?
I mean, there are thoughts about it, right? So we have thoughts about thinking about creating something like a telco that would be also with the stablecoin basket. Because of no fiat, and what we want to do, what the thinking when you read the paper is about incentivization for carriers. That's really the big model.
One question about what type of stablecoin is going to be. For example, it is going to back by anything, or for example, it's something like PAX or other stablecoins.
That's open, right? So in the sense of PAX, you would have it also. You'd have some fiat backing to. I mean, when you talk about stable PAX, you're talking about. Yeah, that could be possible. That could be possible. Yeah, the PAX could be possible as an example. Yeah.
But it was going to be centralized, right?
Not necessarily.
Tesco is going to manage.
What? Who is going to manage it?
No, not Tesco. Cisco.
No, I'm not Cisco. This would be managed by the carriers themselves, not a central, right? Yeah, I think you'll have more clarity when you read the paper where the thoughts are, right? So carriers would be the purveyors of this capability, not a central. Well, central insofar as carriers are the ones. That's the ecosystem. You're welcome.
Paraphrasing Dania is like the title of the talk of Dania is like telcos are eating banking.
Yeah, well, but that's about what the difference for Daniel is. It's a really great connection.
Yeah.
Super. Okay. Thank you.